at.
Yeah, we always got something to talk about.
Yeah, or even try
Absolutely.
log out and log in. I love our warriors. Look how cool everybody is.
Yeah.
So, in which case, let's stack questions. Now, I'm going to do my best to explain a little bit about what Zach does, not as well as what he does, and I'll explain also our style for the Warriors Way. Now, to start off very simply, the Warriors Way is built on psychology, philosophy, and there's a degree of faith to it, but we don't go into the religious aspect very deeply, but you do have to understand your own belief systems and how you operate. What we do is we try to go from a simplicity is genius approach and more of a stoic philosophy like everything is a choice. So what we try to do is take very, very complex psychology, very complex philosophy, simplify it so that you can use it in your everyday life to defeat things like fear, doubt, anxiety, depression, anger, being able to understand yourself to the point where you can actually achieve the dreams you want to achieve. And that's the way that the Warriors Way works. And we do it from a very aggressive standpoint.
Try
We
it out
don't
again,
teach you
maybe.
how to, I see a baby, he's already in. We don't teach you how to cope with your stuff. We teach you how to kick its ass. There it is. Oh, let's see how it works. Also, we would hope that you guys can let us know if the sound sounds good or not. All right. Let's see how this is going. Zach, I may need you to turn your camera on too. All right. There we go.
He is.
There we go. Can you hear
We
me?
got it, man. We got it.
All right. All right. Made it. Catastrophe averted.
Listen, like I told you, it happens all the time. We knew it would.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Now, the logging out, logging in worked perfectly, so that's great.
Good job, Sour
Good
Dragon.
tip.
Thank you for that
Awesome.
one. Let me see if this works still. Apparently not. Okay. Usually we can see more questions if we slide it over, but we don't always have guests on like this. This is awesome. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So, Zak Roedee, you've written multiple books and you work with people all over. Can you please explain better than I could? How do you do what you do? And then people can ask questions and we can answer with our styles.
Okay, so first of all, what I do is I help men and women polarize their relationships if they're in a relationship, or polarize themselves so that they can attract a polarized relationship. So what that means is I help men learn how to lead, right? How to step up and lead in every way. And I help women learn to let go of control and open up and express themselves vulnerably. So typically today, men have a lot of trouble stepping up and leading, especially if they do step up and lead. It's typically in a very off-centered, kind of judgmental, critical way. If they're stepping up at all, and a lot of men aren't doing that at all. And then for women today, have a lot of difficulty letting go of control. There's a lot of fear there. A lot of women have obviously been hurt, taken advantage of. So there's a lot of patterns that need to be rewired. So what I help men do, basically what I help men and women do is shift their communication, the way that they're communicating, in a way where men are taking more control, taking charge in a loving, devotional way, and women are shifting their communication to let go and open up. This is an energy thing.
Awesome. Yeah, that works, man.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
Good
good.
explanation. Yeah.
All right. Now, for you guys, we're going to go back and forth giving our expertise to help you guys out. This is two coaches for the price of none. You guys are lucky we're doing this for free, but we do take donations. So, Zach, if they were going to jump in and want to work with you, or if they just want to just donate to your GoFundMe page, I don't know, where would they get in touch with you? How would they know this is where they find you?
Well, choking on my water here. I wrote these out, so hopefully this works. I did check ahead of time, so I know it works. Upon your advice you gave me, let's see here. Is that right? Relationshipofyourdreams.com. Can you see that?
Good job. You wrote that backwards and reversed, man. Well done.
Yeah, that took a long time. That was an IQ test right there. And then the other thing that people can do actually on the 10th and then the 29th, we have a master class for people who are really interested in what I do. 2-hour masterclass to learn all about polarized communication. So that's polaritymasterclass.com. There you go.
polaritymasterclass.com. We're writing it down to make sure.
It took about 10 minutes to get those two down, by the way.
I'm sure.
That wasn't easy.
We can relate. All right, Mr. Gratitude. What's up, Brandon? Good to see you. That's another coach that we've got to talk with, too. All right, so we got one on here. This is from our Egyptian warrior. She said she lost her motivation to talk with her friends and socialize after a dramatic fight with my husband. So we may need a little bit more information to help you out. But if somebody said, listen, I'm lost my motivation to talk with my friends, and she just had a big argument with her husband, Zach, how would you help her just initially with this tiny amount of information?
Well, okay, so we don't do so much with helping women socialize with their friends. So it is indirectly we help with polarized communication in that way. But more importantly, what I help with is let's get you to the point where you don't have fights with your man anymore, right? Because arguments are not something that ever has to happen, okay? And the reason that arguments take place, I mean, there's lots of reasons that arguments take place, but one big reason that women are not aware of is that they are speaking disrespectfully without even realizing that they're speaking disrespectfully to a man. Okay. And men are instinctually wired to feel irritation when a woman is leading him. Okay. Now, when I say irritation, I don't mean be explosively abusive, attack back. If a man is wounded, he might. But that irritation is there instinctually to tell men, hey, something's wrong. And what is it that's wrong? Well, your woman is leading, right? Your woman is leading you. And that's a signal to a man to tell him, oh, I've got to stop this, right? But men, unless they've worked with me or worked with someone else who does this stuff, you guys maybe, they don't know how to lead a woman lovingly out of that disrespect, right? Lovingly letting her know what she's doing that's disrespectful in a kind, considerate way, leading her perhaps into her feelings, into letting go of control, out of judgments, right? Out of judgments, that's a really big one. Out of blame, out of directives, out of resistance, out of accusations, out of what else? Those are the main ones. And then the man just starts talking about the content of the argument, right? And then the woman is talking about the content of the argument. And for a woman, typically what she really needs to feel is just that she's being heard, that she's being understood, that she's being seen, that her feelings matter, right? The problem is when women start an argument, they're not talking about their feelings at all, right? Or if they think that, often they think that they're talking about their feelings, but they're not talking about their feelings. They're not expressing their feelings, or they are sharing their feelings, but they're weaponizing their feelings. And so a man's not going to respond well to that, and it's going to turn into an argument. Men are instinctually wired to care about how a woman feels, right? But he can't care unless she is expressing those feelings vulnerably. And so this is about shifting your communication to share what you are feeling, be vulnerable with your man, so that he can understand what you're feeling and then actually care about what the issue is. He's not going to care. A man is not instinctually wired to care if a woman is trying to teach him, lead him. So shifting your communication, that's what needs to happen. So it can get you to the point where you never have another argument with your man.
So is it like, just so I can make sure I'm clear, like, so if she was able to speak without blame, shame, judgments, accusations, assumptions, change what would be respectful in that dynamic, then he wouldn't be as maybe there wouldn't be as much of an argument or something from that point. Like, it would be on
Shouldn't
her.
be. Well, I mean, it should get to the point where there is no arguments at all, right? Like not even any kind of tension, anything at all. Literally just care, right? When a woman is letting go of control and she's being vulnerable, and that might look like just as an example, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. May I share what I'm feeling? And he's like, sure. I'm feeling really sad, or maybe I'm feeling a lot of anger. May I have some help with what's going on, right? So now instead of her being against him, where it's like my ideas, my beliefs about the way that things should be, my way of the world, my way of how I want things to be, my you know, reason that I'm pissed off. Instead, it's about just vulnerably sharing what's inside of her, right? What is inside of her heart? And now what is she doing? She is opening herself up to be helped by a man who's on the same team, right? Where he can lead this. He can lead to understand what she's experiencing rather than her trying to teach it to him, trying to lead him to understand what's going on and why he should be thinking differently or be doing things differently. So completely different energy. There should be nothing other than a feeling of, a man feeling love and care to his woman in these moments, and the woman feeling cherished, right? Feeling safe, feeling like she wants to open and share everything. That is how these problems should be, and they all can go that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One question I have is for the woman. Would you say the one of the things that you recommend is, I know that you said she should be asking the man, is it okay if I share my feelings first, or do you coach your client just to express your feelings? Because I know for me, naturally, I'm just going to say what's on my mind, but I'm not going to do it in a rude way, but I'm not going to say to him, do you mind if I share my feelings? So is that typically...
Right. So basically what you are asking permission for is to have space held for you. Okay. Because if you're sharing negative feelings, like you're feeling angry, you're feeling sad, you're feeling whatever, a man or your man, right, holding space is an act of provision, right? He is using his time. He's using his energy to do that. He might be doing other things. He might be on his purpose. He might be focusing on other things. He might not have the energy. He might not have the attention, the time, the whatever to be holding that space for you and leading you through your feelings. So if you don't ask permission to share your feelings, then you are energetically penetrating him in that moment, right? There is disrespect there because you're there's an entitlement there for him to hold space when he hasn't granted that permission that he's ready to do that yet. That's why.
So it's more like asking permission from like manners, right? But just being respectful as far as like, hey, I don't want to interrupt what you're doing.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's just like, hey, do you have a minute? Because I think that would be something like, hey, do you have a minute? I'm not going to interrupt you in your phone call because I wouldn't want that done to me either.
Yeah. All right. That seems fair.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
So on this one,
yeah, but I'm going to clarify one thing. So if you say, do you have a minute? There's actually some subtle leading there too. Now, there's so much subtlety to what I teach, right? And it goes so against what we have been socially conditioned to. It's like, do you have a minute? Like, what the hell is that leading? I can't say that either. Well, there is an element of leading where you're focusing on him and what he's doing rather than just fully letting go of control. Now, feel the energy difference. Feel the energy difference if you visualize this between, may I share what I'm feeling versus do you have a minute? One is more masculine. Tell me if you can feel the difference.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have more. I guess I don't see it as masculine or feminine. That's why it's so good to talk to you, because it does shed light on the differences, right? Because I can see that there's different energy, but I think with Rick and I, him and I have a mutual respect. Like, we talk to each other the way that we both have agreed upon what respect is to both of us. So I think we have those agreements with each other, but we don't call it feminine or masculine. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I got a couple more pieces here for I'm so sorry I keep messing her name up. But it's Reham Lofty 8. I know I'm killing it. She said that she's in a relationship where he is dismissing her feelings. She feels like he gaslights her all the time, and she has a goal to save money and leave him because she shuts down when he treats her that way. She also says, so staying on the couch all day, and I work, and she works all day, and he's on the couch all day. Then I need permission to express, like, to him. Like, she has to ask permission, even though she's doing all the working. Like, so I guess I'm going to put her pieces together here for you.
Yeah, so you're experiencing an extremely depolarized relationship, right? Because what I would teach, right, is a man should be the one that's providing. Whether a woman is doing any kind of work, whatever, it should be an optional thing for her. A man should be able to take care of all the finances. Now, you're in the complete reverse situation where you're going to work and he's sitting on the couch playing video games, whatever, not doing not doing his job as a man. And of course, you're going to feel terrible in that situation, right? You're certainly not going to feel cherished. You're also going to feel drained. You're going to probably feel, um, these aren't quite feelings, but you're just not going to feel cared for. You're not going to feel like a woman. You're not going to be able to be in your feminine energy like that. And you're probably going to be angry because of that, and justifiably so. And so, yes, you can look at it like, oh, why should I have to express my feelings when he is, being a total dirtbag and not doing his job at all?
Mm.
But the thing is, you're never going to fix anything if that's where it's coming from. This is not about, like, on one level, yes, it is about respecting a man, even when he doesn't really deserve respect. Like in that case, you're like, come on, he's not being a man at all. Like, he's not very respectable, clearly. But it's more than that. Feminine communication is for you. Okay, as a woman, it's for you first. It's about, I do not want to be in my masculine energy. I
Mhm.
do not want to be energetically penetrating my man. I don't want to drain myself and feel crappy about, giving my man directives or accusing him or blaming him, because guess what, that's hurting you first. Sure, it's going to hurt him as well, and it's going to hurt the relationship, but it's hurting you in that moment. Okay, so feminine communication is for you first, where, yeah, you're going to ask permission because you value yourself so much that you should not have to step into your masculine with your man, right? You shouldn't have to drain yourself. Now, if you stay in your feminine and just express what you're feeling, right? Because I think it was this person you had mentioned, the gaslighting. I'm not sure if it was actual feelings, if it was, feel like judgments that are just kind of sound like feelings. But let's say you actually express your feelings vulnerably, and you've really showed up as much as you can as a woman vulnerably, and your man's not stepping up. Well, why are you with him? That would be the next question. Why are you with him
Well,
if
I
he
think that's
doesn't care about how you feel, even
it
when you're
looks
being
like
respectful, even when you're not leading?
it looks like that's where she's leaning with it. It looks like she's getting her feelings are dismissed. She's getting gaslighted. She's thinking of saving her money to go because she makes all the money. It seems like it's the question she's asking too: is why am I with this guy? So it does seem like she's already there with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got some good questions coming in about this stuff. People are definitely interested in the way that you're doing this, but I think they want more clarity. I think Sour Dragons has a couple of questions. Ryan had a couple of questions. We got Ashley has a question. I think Ashley's is a good one because this is one where people get mixed up, and it might be helpful for you to um, explain. She says, "Can you please define what feminine communication is, please?"
Yeah. So feminine communication, if we're going to boil it all down, is when you are energetically not trying to get an outcome. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. A very masculine form of communication would be giving directives. Okay, if you want to be as masculine as possible, as masculine as possible, be like, hey, go do this, right? Go do the dishes, or come sit down, right? That's a directive. That's very masculine, trying to lead towards an outcome. Now, obviously, if we're talking about healthy masculinity, then that should be done lovingly, right? It's not about subjugating a woman. It's not about, it's not about her being less than in any way. But that would be masculine energy. Feminine energy is where you are not trying to get any kind of outcome at all. Okay. One example of that, which I've already given you, is being permissive, asking to do something. Because when you are being permissive, what are you doing? You have already submitted, you've already let go to whatever the outcome is going to be. You've already accepted what provision or lack thereof a man's going to give you. So in that moment, you've let go. And if you feel the difference between, may I have your time, right? May I have your time? versus, come sit here and talk to me. Completely different energy.
Yeah, one's a demand and one is manners.
It's not a demand. Well,
Like,
it's
come
not
sit
a
with
demand
me.
in the
Come
negative
sit with
sense.
me. That's a demand. Get over here. That's Scorpion. Get over here. Just saying, like,
Yeah.
come sit with me.
If you mean demand in the positive sense, then yes, it is a demand. But directives can be used in a negative way or a positive way, like a loving way or where you're subjugating, which obviously I don't teach men or women.
Right.
So that's the basis of it, right? The other part of feminine communication is that it is vulnerable, right? So it's energetically opening up. So a big part of feminine communication is sharing feelings, right? I feel sad. I feel anger. I feel shame, whatever it is. So energetically, she is exposed. Energetically, she is showing her heart to a man. She's letting down all of the guards, letting down all of the walls. Now, that's difficult for most women because most women have a lifetime of conditioning of keeping those walls up, right? Why? Small starts in childhood. She didn't get her needs met. Her feelings weren't heard. Her parents, one of her parents or both of her parents didn't care about how she felt. And so she had to protect herself, had to act tough, had to be strong, had to be independent, had to meet all of her needs. She was taught the lesson that her feelings didn't matter. And so obviously she's going to hide them, right? The problem is that strategy, which may have been necessary in childhood and would have been necessary with unhealthy men, is never going to result in a healthy relationship with a healthy man, because a healthy man wants to hear a woman's feelings. He needs to hear a woman's feelings so that he can understand how his leadership is impacting her, and be inspired, be as inspired as possible to become a better man, shift his leadership in the best way possible, to take care of her, to cherish her.
All right, so there's a few layers here, and like thanks for trying to help us. Like
Oh yeah,
she's not trying to get an outcome. She's not trying to get an outcome. She's got to be vulnerable and share her feelings. He has to try to hear her feelings and help her. But it seems like there's also like how does she navigate, like if she's saying something he doesn't like my feelings are I'm pissed at you because you did this thing, because now it's going into disrespect or it's going into
Wait, is that what he said or is that what she said?
that's what she
Or
said.
in this, that's what she said. Yeah.
She's
So
sharing her
if
feelings.
she says I'm pissed, wait, if she says I'm pissed because you did this, there's lots of disrespect there, right? One, did not share ask to share feelings. Two, pissed is a blame word, right? It's like if you feel into the energy of the word pissed, that has been done to you, right? You pissed me off versus, I feel anger, right? I feel anger. And then third, she's explaining the reason right away about why she's angry. So there's going to be a lot of blame laced in there. There's going to be a lot of judgment that's laced in there. It's going to be energetically penetrative, and a man's not going to respond well to that. He's instinctually wired not to respond well to that.
Yeah, so like I feel like the way that what do you mean? I guess what I'm trying to help here, because it is trying. I'm trying to understand like the feelings to the response part, and then with respect, because I saw that Sour Dragons asked, "How would you describe disrespect?" Because it's such a broad word to begin with, but
Yeah.
it seems very important in this dynamic to understand what that word means. But like,
Yep.
she's not able to say I'm pissed off at what you just did. She has to say, "May I ask permission to tell you that I have anger towards things that have been done?" Is that more correct?
Yeah. So before I fully answer this, just understand the other side of the street, because I can fully understand or picture a lot of women that are listening to this right now who are like, oh my God, like I've got to do all of these things and like there's all this stuff that's disrespectful. But guess what? There's so much that a man does that is also subtly inconsiderate, right? I don't talk about respect for men. I talk about being inconsiderate. And what I teach men is you need to always be considering your woman. You need to be considering her feelings. There's small little things that men are always doing that to a man I might be like, it's not a big deal. But guess what? It's a big deal to a woman. It's a big deal to a woman's instincts. And if a man wants a woman to fully open up and let go of control, then guess what? He needs to take those little things seriously. Okay. So it's not just about women, it's equally as much about men. And yes, I am very specific. There are a lot of small little things, but those small things do matter because we're talking about having the most polarized relationship possible, where the woman feels as safe and open as possible to let go of control, to be led by him, and the man feels inspired and devotional as possible to want to cherish her, to take care of his woman's needs. So in answer to your question, yeah, there's small little things, and they do make a big difference. So what disrespect is, if we're going to boil it all down, if a woman is leading a man energetically in any way, that is disrespect. And there's a lot of different ways where a woman can lead a man. And I named a few already: blaming, accusing, directing, uh, you know, penetrating with her feelings without her asking to share her feelings. All of that is leading. And so a man's going to feel that. When a man is more emotionally centered, he's not going to be set off necessarily, but he's still never going to be inspired, right? We're talking about, let's get a man as inspired as possible to take care of his woman.
So you're saying like for the guy's goal is here to be emotionally centered so he can be inspired. And so trying to narrow it down to simple terms, like if his girl's in the right state, it's almost like that's his cheerleader who helps keep him like going, like you're my man, let's go. And she can help inspire him and he won't get triggered by the stuff that she's going, like if she has blame, shame, uh, accusations, assumptions, judgments, he won't get triggered. He'll go, hey babe, let's try and work on the way we're talking. But this is where I almost get a little, I want to make sure I'm not mixing it up. If she's leading, it's disrespect. If he's leading, it's respect. If he's emotionally centered, he won't get triggered by these things. But if she's not doing it the way that he deems respectful, I guess I'm trying to understand, what does he do? Because he's trying to like understand her feelings.
Yeah, so just to clarify one thing, it's not about deeming something as respectful or not. This is instinctual. It's inside every single man. Though some of these instincts in many men are suppressed, where he's not feeling them. He might be gaslighting them himself. He's not aware of them. But in every man, his instincts are telling him, if he's listening, whether a woman is leading, whether she is disrespectful, even in a very subtle way, right? And these instincts, this isn't like some kind of social conditioning thing where it's like you've been programmed with it because of your parents. No, this is literally passed on genetically, generation after generation after generation. Sorry, I forgot your original question. So
I was just trying to find
repeat the question.
I was trying to find the distinction between like how a guy is supposed to handle this. If like
oh yeah, how to handle it, right?
Because like women get in
Yeah,
their feelings.
yeah. So
to be real, we get in our feelings here. I mean, all people do. People get in their feelings.
yeah,
and it's not always going to go this smoothly. And so I'm trying to make sure I can understand, like, if this is like the end game, like this is how we're trying to get people to here, and then like how people can go. Here's what end game looks like if you do it this way. Because I think that it's difficult to say like respect is instinctual. I'll tell you right now, because I teach respect. Most people don't have this correctly. They couldn't define respect if I like was going to blow up their house if they don't get it right. Like most people don't know what that means, especially when I challenge. Yep. Please tell me what respect is, and people are like, they don't know. And so this is where it gets a little bit tricky to try to understand if she's doing something in a way it's like, hey babe, I need this. But if she says I need something, it feels like, well, I judge that as leading me. Well, if he says, well, you're leading me, you need to start over, say it in a different way. It's going to be complicated for that because now I'm telling you how to be, but wouldn't like instead of like, what do you need, babe?
It comes off, yeah, I think in that scenario it comes off across as controlling rather than like trying to be helpful. Serving. And I think, yeah.
That mean, maybe we're just misinterpreting. I'm trying
so first of all, just to clarify, so a man is going to tell her, hey, you're leading right now. Don't do that. Just tell me what you feel, or leading her towards whatever he should be leading her towards. Now, Andrea, you use the word controlling.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a judgment. So tell me what you feel in your body.
Yeah, and I think I've discovered I'm masculine. No.
She said she's masculine.
Well, it's good. It's a good discovery to know.
Yeah, but I
So,
also
what would be the
go ahead.
feeling? So you hear that, what I'm say, you hear this about being led, right, in this way, and you have these perceptions, right, these judgments that it's controlling. Tell me what feeling comes up in your body with that.
Yeah, for me,
Like, is
it's
it anger, irritation?
um, I don't know if it's more irritation, I think. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
it's probably irritation. Like, I will be honest with you, him and I don't talk to each other like that. Like, we get into it, but for
Yeah,
me,
no, almost nobody does,
yeah, but for me, it's
unless they've worked with me before.
That
yeah.
makes sense.
But I also, because and it does come from my childhood. I was raised to be a certain way by a single mom that was like, you can't count
Yep.
on a man for anything. And honestly, my entire life, that has been the goal, right? Or not the goal, but that has been the outcome.
That's the goal.
Until I met this guy. But him and I have such I guess, a healthy dynamic. I can take care of myself with or without him. Where
Hmm.
I see that as being a healthy dynamic, because we have two incomes to be able to, I guess, sustain for me, it's like a healthier, safer lifestyle. I guess it's safer. It's more
you value
safe. Yeah.
safety, security, and you like having the safety net. Yeah.
Yeah. But that comes
Hmm.
from not being able to rely on a guy in the past.
Mhm.
So I'll
Hmm.
be honest with you, I would never be able to give up my job for a man. I just wouldn't, because no matter, people can say whatever they want, but people change over time, unfortunately. So
Yeah. So great, great point, right? So we're getting into wounds here. We've got fears of, what if something happens with my man, either gets injured or doesn't like me anymore, or whatever the possibilities are. And I get that, right? And a lot of women have been hurt because of that as well, for many reasons. And of course, just so we're clear here, when we teach this aspect of polarity, there's a lot of safety concerns for a woman, and safety is my number one priority for women, right? I don't want a woman to get hurt financially, emotionally, physically, sexually, anything. So financially, well, obviously, we're talking about here. So there would have to be a huge level of demonstration first for a woman to feel safe, right? There would have to be a lot of polarity work that's done, and there'd have to be, the man would have had to prove himself, and I don't mean that like prove himself where prove himself to help his woman feel safe, basically. So in my relationship, just so you have an idea, my wife, I was talking talking before about Enneagram stuff. My wife is an Enneagram 8. Tell me, what do you know your type is? I'm sure you know your type is.
yeah,
she's
I'm a
What's
3.
your type?
she's deep on Enneagram.
Yeah, I know you're an 8. And
He's an 8. I'm a 3. So we're both aggressive types.
what's your type?
3.
You're a 3. Oh yeah, I was a 3. Right, right. So also a more masculine type. So my wife is
Yeah.
an 8. When we met, I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. That was my dream. Literally, I just want to be a stay-at-home dad, and I want my wife to, work eventually, like work and take care of us. So very depolarized. Okay, I had very lazy, just I kind of coasted through life in a lot of different ways, and then we had a child, and his birth completely activated my masculine instincts in a way that I just didn't even think was possible. I had no idea that there was something so deep in me that had been suppressed. He was born with brain damage, born in stuck in sick kids for weeks, and I felt fully activated to. I just want to protect him and provide for him, right? And doing that and feeling so good, like this is the most amazing feeling in the entire world. Like this is what living is all about as a man, and I had no idea. My wife at the time had wounds around being hyper independent, hyper in control of herself, of her finances, all that stuff. All of our finances, we decided, we had an agreement, we're just going to keep everything separate, even when we had a child. But it didn't work when we had a child. It worked well enough before we had a child. Afterwards, it just kind of all fell apart, and she was doing all this leading. She had all these needs. once I dove into polarity and started shifting all of this, which I had to do at that point, because once my instincts were fully online, I couldn't go backwards. It was just too irritating to be in that dynamic anymore. I had to feel devotion for my wife, just like I felt it for my son. And during this process, she still wanted to work, right? Because she had a lot of fear of, what if I let that go? What if Zach takes advantage of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if he leaves? What if all of this kind of stuff? I didn't push that. I never push, but I didn't lead her through that resistance right away, because that resistance was huge. And I hadn't demonstrated that I could properly take care of her. I hadn't demonstrated that she is safe enough to let go of this, even though I felt in my mind she was. I hadn't demonstrated it, so I let it go. I let it go for about a year and a half. I led her to stop working a year and a half ago, about a year and a half ago now. And she loves it. She told me, there is no way, like, if you talked to me years ago, there's no way I ever would have thought I would have wanted this lifestyle, right? And we've talked about how she had all of those fears, and now she's worked through it. So you could work through it if you wanted to. If you don't, that's totally up to you as well.
Yeah.
But but even if you choose to keep working, and my wife might, we have a daughter right now, and she's taking care of our daughter, and she's gonna homeschool her and everything. Even if she decides to eventually go back to work, think of the liberation, think of the freedom where you know that your income is fully optional, right? Like, if you don't need to work, it's not about the money, you just do it purely for fun, and that's it, right? And because feeling like you need to be making money to be contributing and to have that financial security, that's really draining on a woman. It doesn't feel good to be in that energy. It feels good to just be in that creative energy where you're just letting go, you're just having fun, you're just doing what makes you happy. So that's what I wanted for my wife. Whether she chooses to go back to work or not, that's going to be up to her. But I wanted it to be uh, fully her choice, total freedom to do that, where she doesn't feel like she needs to in any way, and she's not doing it out of fear. Not
Mm-hmm.
doing it out of fear. She's doing it because of it's fun.
A lot of the ladies in here, and there's also a lot of the guys too. I don't know can you see the comments? I don't know if you can see them. Zach.
Yeah, I can. There's only three I
Oh,
can see at a time, but I do
okay. I didn't
check
know.
some of them.
There's a couple questions that come in that are actually like, they want to hear the answer, so I didn't know if you could see them too. But in any case, there's a lot of people saying like this is a huge wound thing. You talked about wounds. This is one that's a big fear for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you put all your faith into
Yep.
somebody, that's a big risk because people do change, especially if the guy isn't in a healthy state, like you're talking about, and you go,
Yeah.
I'm going to, I guess, submit all my power to my man and be in my creative, joyous state. If she does this, and then like we've seen it where it goes, where guys go like, you know what? I've decided I'm bored of this relationship. You're in your creative state, but I'm kind of bored of whatever you're doing, or we're not talking anymore, and I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But she's just put all of her eggs in this basket, and she's in the creative, happy go lucky state, and then just gets that
Yep.
rug pulled right out. Like, how much more damaging is it if she's going, you know what, I'm going to go with this full faith. He seems like a good dude. We've gone through stuff. I'm going to go all in. And then that happens again after she's all in. How much more damaging could that be?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I don't believe in doing this unless a man has led a woman into marriage, right? Like, I'm married, like with my wife. I don't believe in doing it before that. And the question that I believe men and women should be asking themselves is, if you don't have that level of trust with your partner, why are you getting married? Why are you making what should be a lifelong commitment? Like, are you really taking that seriously? And most people, I don't think, take it as seriously as it needs to be. I take that level of commitment extremely seriously. Not to mention the commitment of having a child, right? Bringing a child into this world. That is a massive, massive commitment that brings another person into, potential harm and everything. So if you don't trust a partner, like the advice I would tell women is, if you don't trust a man enough to have, I mean, if you don't want to have this dynamic, fine, that's totally different. But if it appeals to you, if you can feel that resonance, if having that freedom, having that level of trust would feel amazing to you, you can feel that. Don't get married until that trust has been established, right? Because marriage is forever. It should, or it's supposed to be forever. It's not in our society, but it's supposed to be forever. So have that level of trust. And how are you going to have that level of trust? Well, the problem is that what most people do in their relationships is they're not really being that real with each other. They're hiding things, they're omitting things. Like, women are not fully sharing their feelings. They're both men and women. They're not sharing what they actually need. They're not sharing what their desires are. All this kind of stuff, and they're playing an act in a play, and then they get married, and then a couple of years down the road, it all goes to hell. Well, why? Because you didn't really marry that person. You didn't really establish that trust with that other person, right? So of course it's not going to go well. And that's where the polarized communication comes in, and it's so important, because polarized communication, it's all about needs. It's all about learning how to get fully in touch with your needs as a man, right? And give, a lot of that's going to be giving directives, and then as a woman, learning what you feel, learning what you truly need. Whether that's time, whether that's some kind of safety, whatever that is, being in touch with that and knowing how to ask that in a respectful way, being fully 100% honest with your partner. And you're going to see how a man shows up, right? How he demonstrates how capable he is and how much he desires wanting to take care of you. You're going to feel, when you do that, so much of this is about listening to your body, right? Your body's telling you whether you really are, well, it can lie to you depending on certain traumas and everything. But in general, if you really know how to listen to your body, it's telling you whether you feel safe or not, whether you are safe
No,
or
some
not,
women will be
right?
like,
And
guys,
women will gaslight themselves. Sorry, one last thing. Women will gaslight themselves so much and like suppress certain fears and everything that they have all the time. This happens so frequently, when really they should be speaking up and sharing those fears with her man. Every fear that she has, she should be sharing with her man. Go ahead. I missed what you had said.
oh, I was just joking that if you're saying people should listen to their body, listen, people's bodies make terrible decisions. So there's ladies like, I
Yeah,
hope he
yeah,
doesn't do
yeah,
that. That's a terrible choice. Thinking with the wrong head there, man.
yeah.
No, but as far as some of this goes, okay, so in that dynamic, I'm with you on full faith, full trust, full openness. That's the idea, right? Like, she fully opens her vulnerability, shares her feelings and all this stuff. He's very open to all of her things, listens, understands. Sour Dragons did have a good question about consequences to disrespect, and maybe we'll get to that in a second. I do have a question too. If there is something that happens through that faith, like, because there's still a variable, there's a human element to this, and
Mhm.
people do end up in situations. Let's just go with the follow your body thing, because she's had this in her experiences. It was 10-year relationships. Some people have had 13, 15 decade relationships where they were all in
Marriage, yeah.
and then that guy's body said, I'd like to be with that body, and decided to go outside of the marriage. This sets the ladies up, and so this is where it does seem like it's a high faith, high risk setup, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to try to understand that. And then the sub question was, when a woman starts being disrespectful to a man with polarization, is there consequences?
Yeah. So I want to answer both of those. And then the third one I wanted to answer is something about a woman being lower than a man, because that's not actually the case, but I'll try to remember that one too. So, so the first one, yeah, I'm going to say the consequence for one first, because that one's quick. So, there are no, unless a woman is purposely being disrespectful over and over and over again, where a man needs to temporarily remove his provision, right? Is because a man's emasculating himself if he's continuing to try to give and give and give his leadership and his care and a woman doesn't want it, well, he's going to go do something else for this time and say, okay, when you're ready to, be receptive, great, I'll be here, and I want to help you. I care about you, but I'm not going to continue to do this. That would be the only thing, and it's not a punishment. It's not a consequence. It's about respecting himself, right? I am not going to disrespect myself by giving all this time and energy. Other than that, no, there's no consequence. He's just going to lovingly try to lead her out of any kind of disrespect because it's to help her.
So
she's on his team.
Removing provision, that's going to be something where guys I don't think most guys will understand what that means. Like, I just stopped talking to her. We don't sleep together anymore. I stopped giving her money. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So in that moment, so say it was an argument and she was just not receptive in that moment. So a man, is something that I would be like, that I would say is, hey, babe, I'm trying to lead you right now. You've been disrespectful multiple times, and I've tried to tell you, and you're not listening. I'm going to go do something else right now. I'm going to go do this. Tell me when you're ready to talk, and I would love to talk to you because I do care. I do care about your feelings, but I'm not going to stay here when you continue to blame me. That would be an example, right? I've never gotten to a point where I would have to do more than that. I have had clients that have had to do more than that. I definitely have had a few clients that have had to go much further than that. So that could involve all forms of provision, right? Because if a woman is continuing to not want to follow a man, not want to respect a man's leadership, then he's emasculating himself to continue to give any provision to him, to her. So it's not about punishment. It's just a man is going to feel in his body when he is weakening himself, disrespecting himself, and he should remove that until a woman is ready to be respectful. In the same way with a woman, right? A woman should not continue to submit to a man. And again, this is not about punishment, but it's about self-respect. A woman shouldn't continue to submit to a man, whether that's sexually, whether that's following whatever he wants her to do, when he's not devotional, right? When he's not caring about how she feels, when he's leading selfishly. So this is about self-respect for both man and woman. And to play into what one of the other questions was about a woman's lower than a man, no, she's not. Okay, men and women in this dynamic are perfectly equal, but in totally different ways. And the way I describe this is like a dance, like a salsa dance, a tango dance. Is the woman less valuable? Is she less worthy? Is she less than the man? No, she's in a different role, a beautiful role, a beautiful feminine role where she is following. And it's also difficult. It's challenging to be a good follower. It's easy to be a bad follower, but it's difficult to be a good follower. And the man's leading. Okay? It's equal when the man is devoting to his woman, when he's using his leadership to cherish her, to take care of her feelings, to take care of her needs. If the man is not devotional and the woman is submissive, then it is not equal. That's a very important distinction, because there's a lot of women out there, we'll call it submitting. I don't even call it submitting. It's complying with a man's leadership, doing what he wants her to do, but he's not devotional. And so she's actually dishonoring her heart. She's disrespecting herself when she does that.
All right, so this gets tricky. Maybe like I think a lot of people are trying to understand it, because I know that it seems like if done healthy, the devotional part, and she's doing a healthy submission, as I understand it, like they're working together to make it so they can achieve goals in a way, shape, or form. What I'm wondering is the levels of provision, the way that you said that, you're being disrespectful. I'm not going to continue this conversation, so I'm going to go do something else. That right there is like, okay, well, I'm just going to not talk to you right now, which is like communication is taken away as the first provision. What would be the next few steps of provision that's taken away? Would it go into, now we don't have intimacy, and then now I don't pay your part of the bills, and then now we don't share income? Like, what are the levels of provision that start going like, we are not having the submitting or complying follower dynamic, so I'm going to lead my provisions out of here? What are the levels?
There would only be, I would say there'd only be two levels. One is you're removing yourself from the situation, so your time and energy until she has had, you want to lead her into her feelings, into letting go, but she's unwilling to do that. So she's going to have to lead herself out of that, right? So man's going to do that. And then at some point, there's going to be some kind of re-engagement, right? If a woman is just refuses, right, continued refusal of being led in any kind of way, right, doesn't want to share her feelings, doesn't want to do anything, the next step is to say, okay, I can't be in this relationship.
Now, at what point is it just
That's
bad?
it, right?
Like, wouldn't that just be
Sorry, at what point is what?
Isn't that just bad leadership then? If she's like, I don't want
You
to
cut
follow
out.
what you're saying.
Cut out.
Am I cutting out?
You cut out twice. Say that again. Yeah.
At what point is it just bad leadership? Like, at what point is he just like, dude, be a better leader for her because she's refusing to do anything that you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the time it's going to, absolutely, a lot of the time it's going to be. So men, what I've experienced over and over with my clients is men who think that they are leading well, right? And they're using kind of the masculine communication framework that I give them, right? So giving directives, leading a woman into her feelings. Energetically, they're not giving that leadership as a gift. And this is so important because what I teach, there's so much misperceptions about what I teach because everybody's got their own woundings and past experiences, but I don't teach subjugation in any way. Okay, so if a man is leading a woman with irritation, if he's leading her with, especially with anger, but even the most subtle irritation, then he's actually subjugating her. Right? He's actually subjugating her in that moment. In her body, she's going to feel bad. She's going to feel anxious, almost definitely anxious, and probably some kind of anger, other feelings as well. But anxiety is going to be the really big one. It's like, I don't feel safe to let go. And women, most women have tons of trauma, right? Tons of wounding from childhood and also past relationships, men who were not devotional. And so from a man's perspective, it can just seem like, just, do what I say. Like, I'm trying to help you. And of course, he's frustrated because he's trying to help her. But to her, it's like literally opening up and following is death to her, right? That's actually what it feels like. It's like jumping off of a cliff. It's like submitting to be attacked by a bear. And so when a man is even slightly irritated, that is what she's going to feel. And it's going to be extremely difficult to follow his leadership, even if she wants to, even if she knows that she should, that she's feeling something and she wants to express it on some level. She's just operating unconsciously at that point. So for a man, he needs to be really, really clear on his energy, right? A man leads as a gift. He leads with love. He leads with love. That's what a dominant man, that's what a masculine man does. If it's anything else other than love, then he's off center and it's unhealthy leadership. And then it's no wonder that a woman's not responding well.
So then, like, at that point, if she's not responding to his style, I took away my provisions, you're still not doing it, I'm out of here. Right?
So are you talking about in a situation where a man is led repeatedly in a situation in a discussion multiple times, and he's done it from a fully loving place, and a woman has no interest in following his leadership?
Yeah, even if that's the case.
Yes.
Yep, that's a yes.
Yeah.
How many strikes until you're out? Hopefully you can hear me.
Well, we teach 3 strikes. Yeah. Yeah, we teach 3 strikes in a three strikes in a like if she's not receptive in the moment, right? After 3 times he's going to go do his own thing. Other than that, like when he should eject himself from 3 times. Other than that, when he should leave the relationship, it really depends. I can't give you a concrete answer. It depends on every individual situation. We had one client who literally this polarization process took months and months to the point where his woman was even being receptive. He was unbelievably dedicated to getting this right and getting his side of the street right and helping her, his woman, his girlfriend, through all of this wounding, through all of this resistance. So he stuck with it. And it was not easy. I don't know if I would have done that, gone that long with how much resistance there was. But he stuck with it, and I fully supported him through it. As long as he is staying polarized in his communication, we've definitely had other men who've decided to break up with their women because they just chose the women just chose to be unreceptive over and over and over again, even though the man was doing everything right. So it's situational.
Well,
my wife,
trying to make
my wife was definitely.
He was trying to make it work with his.
My wife was definitely a difficult case as well.
That was his wife, though, right? That was his girlfriend, and so for her to go like, "I'm submitting all the way," to
that was his girlfriend. Yes, yes, yeah. So yeah, he's a dedicated guy. So obviously, in a marriage situation and it's a situation where there's children, I'm going to recommend going a lot longer. Keep trying. Just because it's a much bigger commitment. There's much bigger consequences.
Oh, okay.
Now, and I'll also say, like the vast majority of the time, if a man gets this right, if a man learns how to lead effectively, he masters masculine communication, he masters his energy, we're talking like 98% of women plus, he would be able to lead into letting go of control. And it would be a process. It'd be definitely a process, but a man should be able to do it. There's very, very few women who would actually not be receptive when a man has that level of dominance, and which comes with that level of devotion as well.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I got an answer for Ashley. Ashley actually asked, who are the women that don't clearly communicate their needs?
I think Randy got her already.
Yeah.
She said there's a lot of women.
Ashley, I'll tell you what, jump in and hang out with some of the groups.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how difficult it is for all people to clearly identify their needs.
Yeah.
Like to go like, this is what my need or my unmet need is. A lot of times it's so riddled with emotions. It's very difficult for people to identify. Here's what I need when all heightened senses are going on, especially anger, frustration, narrows awareness. You're going to have a much harder time figuring out, this is what I need. That makes it a lot harder to argue if you're like, I just need to be heard right now. Yeah. Or I just need for us to be able to work together as a team. Like whatever it is. Like if you don't know what you need, though, people start just saying, here's what I hate. Here's what I don't like. Here's what makes me angry. Just so you know, complaining is not the same as expressing an unmet need.
Yeah. I do have a question about the leading part. And what if the woman is better leading in some scenarios? Let's just say, it's, planning, yeah.
Better at
planning, like planning trips, or even maybe planning like financially, she's better at it. In what you coach, does that work? Is there a way for the man to let her lead those things, or is it just the man leading?
It depends what it is, right? So as an example, in my marriage, before I learned about polarity, I led my wife to do things that now I'm like, what was I thinking? I just burdened her. So one of those things was like doing all the finances, like paying bills on time, all of that stuff. I did that because I'm like, I got a bad memory. My memory sucks. I don't have an attention for detail. My wife has great attention for detail. She's great at planning. All right, you're in charge of that. When I learned about polarity, I realized, wow, I'm actually causing my wife a lot of stress. She might be good at it, and this is an important distinction. women can be really good at a lot of this stuff. Women can be great leaders, right? Women can be CEOs, they can be bosses, they can be all this stuff. Women are right now in this world, many women are much better at leading than a lot of men in general, okay? But just because you're good at something doesn't mean that it's going to be fun. Leading, planning, organizing, all that stuff that is going to be draining for a woman, especially in a relationship, especially when you're planning for your man, organizing for your man, paying bills for your man. It's not sexy, it's not fun, it's not romantic, it's not relaxing, it's none of those things. So when I started polarizing my relationship, I decided, all right, I just need to get better at this skill set. I need to be more detailed oriented. I need to be a better planner. I need to work on my memory. I need to write more notes so that I don't forget to pay these bills. And there is no better motivation in the world for a man than devotion for his woman, right? Like that is what, left to my own devices by myself, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to be lazy because it doesn't matter. But my woman, my wife, is depending on me. I want her to be able to be as relaxed as possible, let go as much as possible, feel as cherished as possible. So now I'm motivated to get a lot better at a skill set that is not my innate default setting. So that's what we did. There's going to be other situations so one example would be taking care of our daughter. Mothers tend to be a lot better at, we'll call it, leading that part, right? The breastfeeding, like baby feeding when they go on food, the sleep schedule, all that kind of stuff. So obviously it makes sense that she's going to be focused on that. But we can still put in the polarized communication where she is asking if certain things are okay. And I'll just say, yeah, like, let's do that. That's a great idea, or not. So you're still putting that in, and then she's in charge of it. So yeah, my wife deals with most of my daughter's stuff, our daughter's stuff.
Okay.
But sorry, final point in answer to your question about like planning dates, all that kind of stuff. No, a man should just get good at that. A man needs to learn how to get good at that. If he's not good at it, figure it out.
What if the woman likes to do those things? What if she's like, I really enjoy planning?
What if that is fun for her?
Yeah.
What if she like, that's fun?
I really enjoy it.
What if this we're having fun?
Yeah. Well, so I would say that's a wound. And there's going to be a lot of things that women do enjoy doing that are actually woundings. And this is where polarity gets really complicated because of the way that a woman's been socially conditioned. So I'll give an example. Giving a man compliments, right? Like, you're doing a great job, being really supportive. You did a great job cutting the lawn. And this gets into the whole love language thing. Women might enjoy giving compliments, right? She might feel really good about making her man feel good, making other people feel good with her compliments. But when a woman is complimenting a man, when she's supporting a man, like, you're doing such a great job, she's energetically leading. Okay, she's energetically leading her man. And a man, if his masculine instincts are online, he's not going to enjoy compliments. Man doesn't care about being complimented by his woman. A man whose instincts are online. A man cares about how a woman feels. He will enjoy hearing that he made his woman happy, right? A masculine man's going to love that, but he's not going to enjoy his woman saying, oh, you're doing such a great job. Keep it up, right? So a woman might enjoy that. She might enjoy doing that. And that is because of a wound. That is because typically in that situation, it's typically because she needs to feel needed. She is not in her feminine self-worth. She has a wound around just being intrinsically valuable. And so she needs to be doing things to feel worthy. Compliments is one example of that. Giving gifts is another example of that. Being a boss babe is another example of that. It's doing things because she does not fully love all of herself, the feminine parts of herself, where she can just let go and receive. So we have a lot of clients who started out really saying they liked doing certain things, and now they can never go back because they felt the deeper feelings, the shame underneath that where they're not fully accepting themselves. And once they felt that, they realize that their deeper need is, no, I want to receive. I want to receive compliments. I want to receive support. I don't want to be supporting my man anymore.
All right. Well,
And this goes back to talking about what we talked. This is what we talked about with not trusting your body fully, right? It's like you got to trust your body, but you can't always trust your body. Why is that? Because we've got a lot of social conditioning on top of our wound. Sorry, a lot of social conditioning, a lot of wounding, where our body will feel a certain way. We might even enjoy certain things. That's on top of our instinctual programming.
I think the hard thing I'm having a hard time understanding that because I like something,
you're wounded.
I'm wounded. That doesn't connect with me because there's a lot of things that I like to do, but I can tell you it's not a wound. Where me wanting to achieve,
how do you know?
That's something that I'm aware of. But I do enjoy planning. I like to plan things with my girls. Like I do enjoy that. I wouldn't say that that's a wound. So then everything I like to do is a wound. I don't know if I agree with that.
What if it's something that would be like, I don't know. This is where I need to understand, it's kind of like when you're learning a different language, like Spanish or French or German. Some things are in the masculine, some are in the feminine. So some activities are considered masculine, some activities are considered feminine. Planning, what you would say, that's a masculine. But what if she loved to cook and she's in the kitchen all the time? Yep. But she's planning the dinner and she's planning how like the birthday party's going to go and she's planning like what's going to be served and she's planning stuff in the kitchen. Is that considered planning and that's in her masculine, or is that a feminine role so it would be feminine?
It's a great question. So a lot of that really depends on the energy that she is utilizing. So, for example, in my marriage, I've led my wife to be in charge of that role, right? I want you to be in charge of the cooking. Women can be doing the exact same role in completely different energies. So if a woman decides to, like, wants to cook, plan, and it's to like nurture her man, right? It's like to mother her man. We'll put it that way, mother her man. Well, she's in her masculine energy doing everything. If she's submitting to her man's leadership through something, she could be doing something that's very similar, but now she's actually letting go of control. She's actually receiving his leadership. She's following his leadership. And she can actually be in a very different energy. So it's the energetics behind the activity, behind the role that are more important. As far as like planning during cooking, you're not planning like for your man to do something. So that's not going to be a wounding.
She's planning peas.
When I was talking about planning being an issue, like planning for wounding, I'm talking about planning for your man, like planning dates.
Got it. I think I'm stuck on the way, like if she comes to you and says, it's been an agreement that she likes to cook, but can that be her idea? Can she come to you and say, I really enjoy cooking? Or do you have to say, I'm leading you into enjoying cooking? Am I misreading that?
I think you are. Okay, clarify for me what you mean. Yeah. I didn't get that.
Can she come to you and say, you know what, I'm really great at cooking. I'm going to start cooking from here on out, right? Can that be her idea, or does it have to come from you if you're the one that's leading her?
Oh, yeah. So it can absolutely be her idea, but it depends on the energy that she's presenting it, right? So the example that you gave, like, I'm really great at cooking. I'm going to be in charge of cooking now. Totally masculine, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. I'm planning this. This is how it's going to be. So it's what?
I said it gets the job done.
I missed that. Would you tell me what you said?
I just said it gets the job done. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah. So
she's type 3.
I'm masculine.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of women, though, they are in that energy of like, it gets the job done. That's what's important. And, they're running on stress a lot of the time too. So as opposed to saying like, may I cook for you? Like, may I cook you a meal, or may I be in charge of the cooking, or whatever? Completely different energy. And now a man's going to actually, a man whose instincts are online, I got to always preface that. A man whose masculine instincts are online he's going to feel really good about granting that because it's like, oh, my woman wants to cook for me and she's being so feminine, she's being so permissive. This is awesome. This feels good.
Yeah, this is a neat one to unpack. You got an interesting job, bro. Because I'm trying to understand like the instinct part, how I would teach somebody's instincts, because people's instincts are all upside down from the training that they had. Um,
Yep.
then also understanding
Yep.
like the way that he has to lead is highly, subjective based on his instincts and his what he deems respectful, the stuff that he says it's okay that she does, even if it was her idea, to go like it's your idea, but I lead you to your role. Like, what if you want to lead her to a role that she doesn't like? What if like I want to lead you to do the cooking, and she's like, "Babe, I hate cooking," and you're like, "I hate cooking. I want to lead you to cook the food." And like you need to be
Yep.
submissive, and she's like, this is not a role. This My feelings, may I share my feelings? She's going to be like, my feelings hate this. I feel angry. I feel mad. I feel disrespected. You're not leading me well. And then he's going to be like, well, if you're not doing the cooking, I'm removing provisions and I'm walking away from this conversation. And then she's like, oh, well, shoot, now I got to sit here and what? Am I supposed to cook? Because I'm going to hungry. I'll cook for myself. And then she's cooking for himself. He comes back and he goes, what are you doing cooking? You didn't make me something. You're being disrespectful again. I'm going to remove the food you're cooking. That's provision you don't get anymore. Like, this is where I get confused as to like, it's really like this kind of dance that seems like if I'm following my instincts on our guts and feelings and this is fun, but I'm leading you, it can easily get
Yep.
very goofed up.
Yeah, well, so first of all, I'm going to interject and say that's why people should hire a coach to understand how to do this properly, especially if you're in a relationship you really care about because you don't want to screw that up. This is the one of the hardest, pretty much the hardest thing that people can really do, right? Because you're literally moving through all of your childhood patterns, your biggest woundings, and yeah, you try doing that yourself. It's like doing heart surgery. You probably are going to screw it up. So first of all, in regards to the example that you gave me, just so we're clear, and I'm sure you're doing this humorously, but there's a lot of examples of not devotional leadership in that, as well as not respectful feminine communication from the woman. So a woman can share, right? Like, I feel really like I really hate cooking. Like I don't have fun doing it. What a man is doing when he is leading, this is really important. He's got an inner vision, right? An inner vision of how the relationship should look like. And if a man's instincts are online, it's going to be a very polarized inner vision. It's like, so that's going to involve the communication, that's going to involve the roles, that's going to involve everything. In the center of his inner vision, he is incorporating his woman's heart. He's incorporating how his woman feels. He's incorporating what she needs.
Or did we freeze or did he freeze? Ruh, Raggy. I hope we didn't freeze.
I'm not going to allow us to, so it's okay.
You're
just kidding. Oh no, we lost him.
Oh, it fell off.
Oh, dang.
It was him. It was
okay.
him. Okay. It looks like it dropped him.
Oh no.
All right.
I wasn't going to allow us to freeze anyway, so.
You're silly.
Just kidding.
Okay. All right. That was.
My face is hot.
Your face is hot.
It is interesting to see just a different perspective. My face is hot.
You're gonna leave it right there, huh?
No, it is interesting. He's trying to get back on, which is good, but okay. it is interesting to see a different perspective because there's a lot of things that I don't understand or know how other people's relationships operate. So
yeah, I want to give praise to a lot of the people out here. Ashley, I see what you're saying. I see a lot of you guys. Did you guys? I see Phil. I see a lot of people out here. Luke. Thanks for asking the questions. Sorry we're not getting to the questions like usual. I'm trying to also be respectful to the guest and make sure like we can hear a totally different point of view than what we would normally say. I also am trying to understand, because I don't discredit. I also want to understand.
Yeah. Well, it's I agree.
And I believe the intention seems good. It's just difficult to explain it.
Right. And I think this is a perfect example of even when, the cancel culture is all around us, right? And just because something you don't agree with something doesn't necessarily mean you can't, you don't have to listen. It's good to hear people out.
Digicom 92. You keep forgetting me. I'm terrible with all the names.
Maybe here, I got it. I'm good at planning. Let me just get it real quick.
Listen.
Stop it.
You're making jokes. All right. So, all right. I can't see.
You guys, I have so many. So many. Here it is. There he is.
Let's see. I'm trying to get him to have the thing, and I'm sending the invite. But it's Dominic. Oh, it is Dominic. You're right. You know what? I never do remember that. I never do. You're right. I never do. Thank you guys for being on.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's tough to explain this one, Ashley. I think it's hard too, in like such a short amount of time, to try to explain some of these things, because I can see how like sometimes the terminology can be very difficult. I know some of the words too, especially subjective words, can be very difficult to translate, because we all have different things that some of these words mean. And I think that by listening to him, I don't think that he has the same definition for words like submissive or compliance. I think the judgment category or the respecting would be a different way. And this is where, let's see, set request, but it keeps getting stuck in accepting. I'm hitting the button. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not hitting there. It's not showing up as a request. And I keep hitting the invite for you. I wonder how many people we could get on at once. I've never really messed with this thing very much. Fluffy Strong, I see you, bro. So I'm sending the invite to you, trying to get you to jump in, but there we go. Now it's working. The invite to you, trying. I can hear myself. At least his microphones are working.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Right.
This is good. Yeah, I was just explaining. I think you can see a little bit. Oh, man. Let me lose connection. Okay. Hopefully, we're not freezing.
Is my connection okay?
It's coming in. Let's do a little test here.
Yeah.
Is our connection okay? Jeez, I'm worried about ours.
Mine on my phone is even a little off tonight.
Dang.
If it's my connection, I can try turning off I can put on a different internet. I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's coming in now. Yeah, it took a minute there.
I'm going to try turning it on.
Okay. So, like,
okay.
But yeah, it's an interesting.
Are we good?
And this is something, here I got something for you, Zach. So one thing, I bet you probably get this all the time. I believe, if I'm reading you right, your terminology isn't meant to be as triggering as it ends up being. Like the stuff that you're saying, I don't believe you're trying to be as triggering as I sometimes think you end up being. Because I think some of the words that you use are trigger words for people, but I don't think you have the intention to piss everybody off. You're trying to do good things.
How would you say that's the way we're taking it because we're wounded?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we in our society, for the most part, just do not have, like, we've been conditioned for decades to believe certain things about relationships that are just not true. We've been conditioned, especially, well, men and women have been conditioned to believe that words like submission are dirty and bad. Before I learned about polarity, the idea of that dynamic is like, no, I don't want that, because my wife is equal to me, right? Like, that's literally what I said. I said it for years, and I saw sort of dynamics like that seemed, and I said that I didn't want anything to do with that, and that submission was actually a problem, even though my instincts were telling me, oh yeah, that would be kind of cool if my if my wife was actually more submissive. So there's things that I believed in my head that were not in line with what my body was telling me. And then for women, it's a different thing with a word like submission, where women have followed men and been so badly taken advantage of or hurt in some way or disappointed, whatever it is, and then they think that that's submission. No, and I briefly clarified this before. Submission is not the same as compliance, right? It's not the same as just blindly following or following without devotion. Submission is when a woman lets go. It's when she's honoring her heart, right? So yeah, I throw out all this terminology that society's not used to, and so there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings. But it's literally like, no, this is how it is, and people need to stay open-minded enough, stick with it long enough to see the truth of it, or not. But if you get triggered away, well, you're definitely not going to see the truth of anything. When I first started learning about this from who is now my business partner, Mark Benet, I followed him for weeks and challenged him on a whole bunch of stuff because even after all the work I had done and it was sort of in this direction, there was a lot of conflicts, right? I got triggered a bunch of times by a lot of the things that he was saying. And that's why people need to keep open minds. You know, it's fine to get triggered. I expect people to get triggered, but sit with the trigger. Figure out why it triggers you. If you're going into judgments, and I've seen some of these judgments in the comments, like, you know, this is abusive, this is whatever, you know, sit with the feelings underneath it. Really try to understand why you believe that a man devoting to his woman, caring about her feelings, listening to her opinions, her feelings, her needs, is abusive. How is that possible?
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
No, go ahead.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I can see how it's triggering to everybody. Like as far as some of the terminology, that I agree with, and especially if people don't understand what your intentions are. Yeah, I'm there with you on that one too. I also see, yeah, there's a lot of people who like do speak in judgments, and it's a normal thing. It's also just I take it as a part of my ability to also try to communicate as simply as possible for the answer they need. That's a lot to take on though, man. If someone says like you need to be submissive, like they're immediately going to use their own word. You're being disrespectful for me. That would seem like I'm being judgmental, but I can be judgmental. You can't be judgmental. Does seem a little tricky to me too, because it's like you're making a judgment. You're not allowed to make a judgment because you need to be in feminine. So say, may I ask a question so I may lead you? Does make it a little bit trickier because then like I can judge her judgments, but she cannot have judgments.
I also think too, because we've been able to come to a lot of agreements that we have with each other in the way that we talk to each other. And by no means do I want to be equal to a man at all. Like, I don't want to have to do the things that guys do. But there are things that I have continued to like be able to provide for myself and take care of myself and take care of my kids. And yeah, does some of that come from wounding? Yes. But that's something that also I wouldn't be willing or open to give up right now in my life, and probably ever, honestly. But to me, that's because I enjoy what I do. And so I think the agreements that Rick and I have with each other work for our dynamic. And I think that's what you're saying too. Like if it works for your dynamic, just, there's also another way that people have these relationships, which I think you've been able to shed light on that tonight for us, because I wasn't familiar with what you coach and teach. And so it's good to know that there's other things out there that may resonate with other people too. That was a lot. I think probably like it just rambled on.
Yeah.
I got one for you that's tricky. And I know that like I felt bad because like I didn't realize the time when we were talking before that I had a class to teach right at that time. So I had to jump out quickly. But I did want to get into stuff that I work with people to see how do you help people when, like, let's say they're in a polarized relationship. The guy's doing his thing, the girl's doing her thing, and then life just blasts the dude. His mom dies, he loses his job, everything that he's got going for him just gets crumbled underneath him. whether controllable or not controllable, like mom getting sick and dying, and then his job made cuts and he got cut, and then everything just falls apart. And he doesn't have the skills to deal with
Mm-hmm.
this. And a lot of times guys can get caught up in like depression because he's not going to go to her and go, babe, let me tear all my feelings out for you. You have to be in your masculine now because I'm going to be sharing all my feelings and you need to deal with my feelings now. And she's going to go, this isn't fun. I hate this. Like, it's going to be like things start falling apart.
Yep.
So he'll start falling into depression, may not have the coping mechanisms. What did dad and Uncle Bob used to do? Well, look, I'm going to start taking some drinks on here so I can numb some of this pain. And they start falling into a combination of depression and addiction. What the hell is she supposed to do when all her eggs are in this basket that just exploded? And when guys start hitting depression or start falling down the spiral there, what's supposed to happen? Because people need to be let out of those dynamics, and she can't lead. So what's supposed to happen like in these scenarios when you see some guy who's in depression or even struggling with addiction?
Yeah. Well, I don't recommend that any woman gets with a man who's dealing with addiction or serious depression issues in the first place. Because again, we got to go back to, I mean, if a woman wants, well, especially if a woman wants a polarized dynamic, right? You've got to be able to trust a man. You got to be able to trust that when times get tough, he's going to be your warrior. He's going to be your protector. He's going to be able to step up and solve whatever problem. He's not going to curl up in a ball and start drinking, right? And like for me, even if I lost everything, I'm not curling up in a ball. I'm not going to start drinking. I'm going to start problem solving. How do I fix these problems? Not just for me, but I've got a woman that I have to take care of. I've got a daughter that I have to take care of, right? I don't have time to, curl up in a ball and drink and get addicted to something or continue with an addiction to something. So this is the kind of mindset that a woman needs to find in a man, right? A man who is going to, what's the word? Something through adversity. He's going to prevail through adversity, right? Adversity is going to make him step up more rather than letting it destroy him. Every bad thing that's ever happened to me, it's only made me stronger, right? My child died, right? The son that I was talking about earlier, who was stuck at Sick Kids for weeks, and he was brain damaged, and he died at 6 months. Mm-hmm. That experience made me so much stronger as a man. All right. I could have curled up in a ball and cried and, numbed myself out in some way. But no, I used it for the absolute best possible way. I saw his birth, like everything that happened put me on the path of becoming a better man for my wife and for the world. And so I used that as fuel when he died. It's like, okay, I'm going to make his death mean something. I became a coach because of that, right? Like it was afterwards that I decided to start coaching and change other people's lives to make his life mean as much as possible. I shortly after his death, the whole, I don't even know if I can say the word on TikTok, but the big disease that came out, and then there was the government response a couple of years ago. We moved up north, and I hadn't even fully grieved for everything. I was out digging in my garden, crying for hours a day, right? I'm literally digging, planting potatoes while crying and grieving because, at the time I was like, holy crap, like, is society going to fall apart? Like, I need to be prepared. I need to make sure that my wife and I are taken care of. I'm fully in touch with my emotions as a man, right? Like I feel everything, but I don't let my emotions stop me. I don't stay stuck in my emotions. I feel them fully, and I make sure that I'm doing my job. Okay. So any woman that wants to have any kind of relationship, period, but especially a polarized relationship, make sure you know what you're getting into. Make sure your man can actually handle adversity, because a lot of men today cannot handle adversity. They cannot handle adversity because we are so soft. We've been coddled. Men don't know how to be men. A lot of men don't know how to feel their feelings. That's another problem. And then they don't know how to keep doing what needs to be done when they are experiencing some kind of traumatic event. If a woman is getting herself into a world of pain and problems by choosing the wrong man. So it's the most important decision that she can make if she's going to be following this man, if she's going to be trusting this man. So choose the right one.
All right. So first on that one, sorry to hear about your son, man.
Yeah.
Like that's a tough deal. Loss of a child is a massive hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is. And just for like even my own clarity on the question for that one though, let's say the guy's solid, but then like just as far as how a lot of these things go, when life stacks on you real hard, like remember, like parent just died, lost your job, lost your identity, and there's a two-parter to this one. First off, when things start spiraling out, like it's not always as easy as like, dude, fucking suck it up, be a man. Like that, I think for like centuries now we've realized like that doesn't necessarily just work that way. But then second, what is her role when like you get blasted out of the water? Because remember, your identity's gone. What you identified for status, strength, like how you provide. The people that you lean on, the people you love most may have just died. And all of this happens in a short amount of time. What's her role when does he like back off, babe? I got this. Like, what's she supposed to do?
Yeah, the biggest thing is to not burden him with anything, right? Like not be able to continue to just accept him as he is, right? So it's about having grace, and not, and this is true in any, whether he's going through things or not, but don't burden him in the sense where you're putting expectations on him, you're being entitled to certain things, because he doesn't need that right now. He needs to deal with his own stuff. He needs to be able to fully feel his feelings, go through whatever he needs to go through, and the last thing that he needs is a woman who's making demands, who's not accepting him for who he is, all of that kind of stuff. And then second, don't go into mothering, because he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that. A woman can ask, like, may I know if there's anything that you need from me, right? That's fine. But a lot of women will go into this mothering role, and that's not, it's not what a man needs. A man's got to be able to figure this stuff out for himself. He needs the space to do that. He needs to know that his woman respects him, that his woman loves him, but he needs to be able to figure this out for himself.
All right. So the only thing I've got for her right now is to accept him. And then the other stuff is don't burden him, don't mother him, don't put more on him, and don't nurture him. What should she do? Just accept him? Like, hey,
yeah,
you just got shit on. I accept that.
Well, especially when you guys are going through something together, like it affects you both at the same time too, right?
I'm trying to make sure. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like,
yeah.
I deal with shit.
So as an example, like we can use. Yeah, we can use my son as an example, right? So that's a big thing that my wife and I went through together. So all I cared about in that moment was, or in that experience was, I wanted to take care of her. I wanted to make sure that she was okay. I wanted to know what she was feeling. I wanted to support her and care for her and all those things, because even though I am grieving as well, even though I am also going through hell, I want to be her man, right? I want to be that support for her, because that is what I need. That is what a man continues to need, even in those moments.
So is there someone that
so we did talk about that, like all of that stuff, right? We talked about it.
So who does
talked about it together? Is it something that someone that I talk to with?
Yeah.
Yeah, like as guys, because listen, my men. Yeah.
No.
We lean on each other pretty hard. Our boys all look out for each other. We have a powerful network of warriors who, like, if anybody gets knocked down, we pull each other up. We don't leave our guys on the battlefield. And so if you just got nuked, like life just got blasted, is there like a like a support setup that you have that may not be from your wife, but to be able to go like, man, you got smashed, bro. Get up, let's keep going, or is it like you got to figure it out on your own?
Yeah. If a man needs that, absolutely, right? I highly recommend that a man has a network of other men to lean on when he needs it, right? Because a lot of men, there's dominance, right? Like there's dominance, there's healthy masculinity, and then there is this fake masculinity of like it's kind of an act where men have been conditioned, many men have been conditioned, especially much more so, say, 50 years ago, right? Like a man shouldn't experience feelings, shouldn't share feelings, just totally self-contained. And that is a really big problem, right? No doubt that mindset is a really big problem because it often does lead to suppression and depression and suicide and lots of bad outcomes. So if a man needs support, he should get it from other men, 100%. In my case, I didn't really need that. I talked to my dad a few times, my brother a few times, but that's pretty much it. I mostly dealt with it myself, but I'd done so much emotional support, emotional development work that I can handle that all by myself. I can go plant potatoes and just cry for hours a day until I'm feeling a lot better. But most men can't do that. And I don't recommend that most men try doing that if they don't have the skills to do that, right? If you're really going through a hard time, have a support system. Find a support system. Don't keep it bottled in, because then you're not going to be able to take care of yourself, and then you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else either. All the people that do depend on you.
Yeah, I think that it's a little trickier because I know that when people get really blasted, like especially like if depression sets in, this is where like suicide and addiction, even degrees of post traumatic stress, like even when these things are in there, it's not always as easy as go and like hang with the potatoes. And so like sometimes it's going to be like someone's got to come and get you out. And this is not because somebody's not, strong enough. It's not because someone's not trained enough. At some point, even the fastest cars will need a tow truck. It's, at some point, just something's going to break. That's just not fixable on its own. And that's maybe a little bit tougher to train to go like, you need to just be ready for when everything goes wrong. She needs to keep being in her creative. She needs to keep having fun and keep having a good time. You go out to the potatoes, sort it out without any help, and then you can just come back and serve her when you get back. I'm like, oh man, how do we help this guy out of depression? Because that negative self-talk when you're at the potatoes is gonna be fucking brutal.
Yeah, this is still on topic, but slightly different than the communication stuff we've been talking about. So the negative self-talk. The reason that I can deal with this stuff on my own really well is I don't have negative self-talk. I have trained myself not, I don't literally have any negative self-talk. If I feel feelings, I just move into them, feel them fully, cry it all out if it's a sad feeling, and then I'm good to go again, right? So that's why I can get over a loss like my child. I've also trained myself, like at a really bad breakup, and I was alone in Africa for a year. I learned how to fully process, move through all of that pain, and I was very attached to her in a matter of hours, just crying it all out. Most people will stew in their feelings because of this negative self-talk that they can't get out of, and then they torture themselves, and then they get stuck in this depression. That's not necessary. You can move through anything literally in a matter of hours if you know how to do it, if you have the proper training to do it. And part of this, right, because one of the things that I do with men is I teach men how to lead women out of their negative self-talk, right, out of all of their stories where they're either beating themselves up or they're telling stories about why their man is a piece of crap in whatever way. So what we're actually leading men to do is lead women out of the stories into just feeling their feelings, right? And people are so conditioned not to do that. Men, they're conditioned to stay in their stories and cause a lot of needless suffering. So when men learn to do that for themselves, guess what? They're going to be able to do that for their woman too. One of the reasons I've been able to teach women how to do this so effectively is because I did it for myself, right? I taught myself how to not ever be a negative self-talk. Just feel the feelings, be with the feelings, move through the feelings, and then get to the other side so that you can continue to experience joy in everything.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I told those potatoes how to submit.
And that's funny, Amy. So like on this one, like I'm with you as far as teaching through grieving cycles. And is that how you guys do it? You go through like the grief cycles and teach people how to beat each grieving cycle when it comes to like denial, anger, depression, bargaining. You go through the things, or you just don't ever have those ones get you. Like I don't really know what the style is.
No, we don't do any of the cycle things. It's more just, if you notice the judgments, right? The judgments, the stories, talking about yourself, talking about whoever it is, your partner, it's a victim, some kind of victim story or whatever it is, right? Whatever the judgments are, you notice them, just accept them, right? You don't judge them. You don't try to suppress them. You don't try to make the judgments go away because that's not going to help because you're just resisting. You're just fighting yourself at that point. Just notice them. Oh, I'm judging. I'm telling a story. Oh, I'm turning myself into a victim here about how my life is so terrible because this happened. Okay, that's interesting. What am I feeling? Oh, I'm going to put my attention in my body and feel my feelings. Ooh, I feel a lot of sadness. I feel a lot of sadness.
It's interesting.
I'm just going to feel that.
You're talking about feelings with an objective perspective. And that makes it trickier to do because you're like, I can see that thing is happening, which would be objectively observing. I'm observing and we're having an awareness of what I'm doing. But I'm observing all of my feelings. Mm-hmm. And so this is a feeling system that's going wild. And feelings by themselves will also lower our awareness. And so you're saying I have an objective awareness through all of the feelings as they're going off.
Yeah, you need to be aware. You can't be feeling them unconsciously. Okay. And which is how most people live, right? That's how most people experience their feelings and judgments. It's just all unconscious, and then they might notice hours later, oh, I was really beating myself up, as opposed to just catching yourself. Oh yeah, I'm telling you stories. What am I feeling? Feel the feelings. Be with the feelings. And that really breaks that cycle really quickly. And I used to torture myself, right? Many years ago, that's what I did. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So I learned a skill set to stop doing that.
So it's just change.
But yeah, awareness is the key. Right? That's the key.
So you're like, I'm just going to change that story.
Pardon?
So I'm just making sure, I want to use it right. I want to change the story. So I got to just listen to the stories that I tell, right? I just my story is I'm filled with doubt or fear, or I'm making excuses, or I'm just trying to distract. So I got to change my story. Right?
It's not even about changing the story, right? Because that would be, because you're not really in acceptance of yourself if you're trying to change in that way. It's more just noticing that you are telling yourself a story, not taking it seriously. That's another thing, right? When we're operating unconsciously, we are taking our story seriously as like fact, right? If you're creating a victim story, it's like you are believing that story in that moment that you are a victim. You're believing every word that you say. And it's really interesting, right? Because if we look at this dynamic or relationship with ourselves as if it was a relationship with another person, I always point this out, especially to women. Imagine how abusive that partner would be, right? Like if you're a woman and you're in these thought cycles about like, oh, I'm terrible. I shouldn't have done that. I'm so stupid. Imagine that your man is telling all of those things to you. You're with an abuser, right? You need to get the hell away from that relationship. But we do that to ourselves all the time. And so it's because we're so unconscious about what's going on and we don't realize that there's actually a solution to completely stop doing this 100%. And part of that solution is just becoming increasingly aware in the moment when you're doing it, right? You're building that awareness and not taking the story seriously. You're just noticing them without believing them as facts. And then and then moving into your feelings and actually just feeling the feelings. You're not making anything go away. You're just noticing what's going on in your head, but the healing's not going to happen from your head, right? You don't heal anything from your head. You heal from feeling the pain that's in your body. So you lead yourself into your body, feel that pain. You just be with that pain. You accept that pain. And eventually you move through it.
Maybe I'm just, what was your take?
One second. Ooh, just a comment. Did he just call someone who shares their feelings an abuser? No, I didn't. I definitely didn't call someone who shares their feelings.
No, I think you're talking about the
sharing
self-talk.
feelings is saying like I feel sad or I feel.
Like the self-talk would be like,
what's that?
People have abusive self-talk, is what you're saying, right? Is that what?
Abusive self-talk where they're judging themselves. Like you're like, I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I'm an idiot. I'm never gonna get this right. Right? That's abusive self-talk.
Shameful.
Those aren't feelings.
Being upset of themselves for what they are. They're shameful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, because maybe I'm trying to write and keep up, and I also am kind of curious to hear how it's being. I think that you have good intentions. I feel like sometimes it gets received wrong. So I'm trying to make sense of it because I don't want to get it wrong. My story, like, don't take your own story seriously, because like a lot of times we get into our subconscious feelings, but those feelings aren't facts. Like those stories, don't take your story seriously, but the feelings are telling the story that we have inside our head. So we have to be objective and aware of the feelings that are telling the stories, and then make sure you remove shame, because you can't have abusive self-talk. And then you have to heal from your body and not your head. So your body is the one that helps you be aware of the feelings that your story is telling so you can heal. Right?
Yeah, just one correction there. So you're not removing shame. You're noticing shaming, right? If you're shaming yourself, and then if you are feeling shame or whatever you are feeling, you move into your body and you feel that. And a lot of the time the feeling is shame, right? So when people are shaming themselves or judging themselves, there's going to be a lot of shame that's going on that they're not fully feeling because they're stuck in their head with the story. So yeah, move your attention into your body and feel that shame. And everything that I'm talking about right now, right, this is especially important it's important for both, but for the men that are listening, if you understand this process, you're going to know so much more about how to lead a woman, because she's going through this process all the time. And it's either going to be stories about you or it's going to be stories about herself. And then those stories are going to be compelling her into disrespectful communication, which most of the time it's not intentional, right? Most of the time women are not intentionally disrespecting her man. But knowing where that's coming from can actually allow a man to be a lot more compassionate, a lot more understanding, and a lot more competent to lead her out of it.
Okay. One thing I do know is for a lot of guys, they do have a deep shame. I know that women have the different critic part to them, but men definitely shame themselves really hard. When you say, like, observe the shame and then pull it into your body, what does it mean? Like, if you're going to teach a guy, like, hey, here's how you work with shame. You don't get rid of it. You don't let it go. You pull it into your body and then you heal it. How do you pull the shame into your body and heal it?
Yeah. So, sorry, did you say hold or pull?
Pull, like, because you're not using your head. You got to go from your head to your body.
Yeah. Right? So you're not pulling anything. You're just shifting your awareness. Okay. So usually we're up here. Our awareness is up here with the stories. So you're just noticing, okay, wait, just like if I, punch myself in the chest, I'm going to feel some sensations there, right? That's not going to feel good. I just punched myself in the chest. And if I take my attention where I punched myself, it's like, oh yeah, I feel some pain there. That's uncomfortable. So you're doing the same thing, except instead of sensations of where the punch is, you're moving your attention where the sensations of the feelings are, right? Where is the feelings of shame manifesting, the sensations of that shame feeling manifesting in your body? Usually it's in your chest. It can be in your belly area. For some people, it can be all over. but typically it's going to be in your torso. Most feelings are going to manifest the most intensity in your torso. Wherever it's the most intense, well, you just feel it there. And you're just observing, you're just being with that feeling. And so there's no pulling, you're not like trying to change or make anything happen, right? For women especially, one of the things that, I mean, you could do this with a man too, but for women especially, what I'll tell them is, just pretend you're like, picture a little girl, like yourself as like that 4-year-old little girl. And this would be really applicable for women that are mothers as well. And just be fully present with her, right? Where you're just fully with her in her feelings. You're not judging her, right? You're not trying to make her feelings go away. It's not that her feelings are bad and you need to make those feelings go away because you're uncomfortable. You're just fully present, right? And it's going to be really powerful for women because typically neither did men, but women didn't get that love in childhood, right? They didn't have parents that were just fully present with them. It's like, you can feel that. You feel all this anger towards me. Okay, just feel that anger. Totally okay. I'm right here with you. Tell me where you feel that anger in your body, right? That's what children needed so that they could be with their feelings. But our parents typically didn't know how to be with their own feelings, so they don't know how to be with their children's feelings either. And then, of course, that just creates a terrible cycle of self-shaming and not actually working through feelings properly.
Versus, yeah. So I'm going to go back. I shift my awareness to the feelings in my torso, and then I feel and observe the feelings of shame. Do I do anything after that?
No. You just be with them. You just allow them to be there. That's it.
Just hang out. Because I know some guys that are like, I truly am a piece of shit. They're like, man, I keep saying that. Like, and then keep saying it. There's some dudes, especially if you go to the 4 Enneagram types, they're like masters of shame. And so, how do you get a guy who's a master of shaming to go into his torso, feel and observe the feelings? Because I think that my 4 guys, I got some guys on here who are my 4 types, they'll sit with that shit. And they'll stay there.
Yeah.
They'll stay there for a while. And that makes it very difficult to also stay in your masculine, be the leader, lead with intent, and also sit and feel all this shame, but there's no things done with the shame. You just sit and observe it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so here's the thing. A lot of men will spend time feeling their feelings or be in their stories and not even really feeling the feelings, but basically stewing in that emotional mess. Okay? And that's going to be a really big problem for men because we're not really designed physiologically to do that. We can do that, right? I can do that, right? I have done that when I've experienced loss. When I need to do it, I will do it. But for most men, what they really need, I'm just talking about averages here, what most men need is not spending more time with their feelings. They need to spend more time leading. Okay? Why does a man feel negative feelings? Other than loss, right? Stuff where it's like they literally have to let go of an attachment, a breakup, or a lost loved one, or whatever. Most of the time, when men are feeling negative feelings, there's something that they can be doing to change their situation. So, as an example, if you've got a woman and she's leading, so doing a lot of leading and judging and criticizing you and nagging you to do the dishes and all this stuff, and you're feeling really bad about it. You're just like, you go on your bed and you're just feeling all this shame about what a piece of crap guy you are. That's not the right move. The right move is start using masculine communication and lead her out of her disrespect and start polarizing the relationship. Because guess what? When you polarize the relationship, you're not going to be feeling bad all the time anymore. You're feeling great because you have a woman who's fully respecting you and you're fully cherishing her.
And she's not doing that negative criticism. She's doing what you want her to do instead.
Yeah.
Right.
And the man's doing what she wants him to do, or what she needs him to do anyway.
So leading him. Yes, this is where that's probably a big jump because I know that's kind of like the beginning of the story to the end of the story, where it's like she's leading, she's being criticizing, she's being negative, she's complaining, and he's like, damn, I got so much shame in here. Well, he's got to sit with his shame in his chest, but then change himself to do what he knows he's supposed to do, which is talk to her more masculine, so that way she stops complaining so much, and then they'll be okay. But it seems like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, there might be some inner work that a man still has to do. I'm just talking about in general, the main focus needs to be leading. So I'm going to give you an example of this just to make it more concrete. So I am the master of feeling my feelings. Okay. Long before I met my wife, it's a skill set that I don't know anyone better at it than I do as far as moving through this stuff really quickly. So when we had our son, uh, my wife started doing a lot more leading. Why? Because she needed a lot more from me all of a sudden. We didn't have this problem before. We were just two very hyper independent people. She didn't really lead. We just got along quite well. But when our son was born, she needed me for all these things, help with diapers and bottles and all this stuff. And it drove me nuts. Right? It drove me nuts because I was being led, right? And I could feel in my body, okay, this feels really bad. I hate this. And then another part of me is like, oh, but I need to be helping my wife. I need to be helping my son. They need me. Why am I so selfish? Why am I so why am I feeling so bad about the fact that my wife is asking me to do all these things? And so I tried just sitting with all of my irritation, right? And moving out of the stories, okay, I'm just going to feel all these this anger and irritation and all this stuff. I don't really feel much in the way of shame. My pattern is I externalize it onto the other person as blame. Okay. Other people, they internalize it a lot more and feel shame and self-blame. For me, it's all external. So my pattern, okay, I'm just going to feel all that stuff, that irritation, just sit with it and get to a place where I am now good. And I tried that for like a month. A man could do that for the rest of his life. And at the end of his life, he's still going to not be feeling great. He might be more present with his feelings or whatever, but still not going to be feeling great. And he's still going to be super emasculated in a depolarized relationship. And the more that he does it, the more that his woman is going to have more things to be irritated about because he's not leading. He's not being what she needs him to be, which isn't just helping with the diapers, right? It's the help, but it's also his masculinity that she needs. It's also his masculine penetration. It's also his direction. It's also his emotional centeredness where he can just fully hold space for whatever she's feeling, right? So after a month of trying to just accept everything and figure out why I get irritated all the time, I shifted. I'm like, maybe I need to shift this something that's going on in this relationship instead. And I started learning how to lead her out of her disrespectful communication and into communication that actually felt good, that actually inspired me into wanting to take care of her, into wanting to be a better man for her, a better leader. And that's what I did. So that's the main thing that men need to learn how to do is start leading.
I think it's cool, man. All right. That's a lot to go in. It's cool your story's going that way. And especially you going as a 5 and externalizing and she's an 8, for you guys to be able to like have that type of success is pretty amazing. And like
Yeah.
real talk, just for you, do you guys feel like you're happy with what you guys have? Are you guys happy as you guys have ever been?
Yeah. So it gets better all the time. It's not perfect, but every day it's becoming more polarized, right? So, like you said, I'm going to answer this diaper question in a second. But we've come a really long way. Like her as an 8, me as an 8's like super penetrative, leading, in control, take charge. It's like the most masculine that a person could be, whether they're a man or a woman. A 5 it's like the most typically introverted, not leader type, right? Like often very independent. They're going to do their own thing, but they're not leading. They don't want to impose onto anybody. So we've had a very big learning curve. It's been very, very challenging for us to shift this. And it's now gone from a place where it was kind of a disaster to very good. Like we don't have arguments. We've had one argument in the last year, and I can fully we both screwed up. Like either of us could have done it better, where we wouldn't have had an argument. But it doesn't happen anymore. We don't have problems. Everything's great, and it continues to get better every day. Her needs are met. My needs are met. She feels great. I feel great. So no issues there. And which leads into the diaper question. So I do change diapers. I actually love changing my daughter's diaper. Like it for men that are like, oh, that's just a woman's job. I got to tell you, there is something beautiful about being with your baby and taking care of her in that way. Now, I'm not going to spend 12 hours a day with her, right? Because mothers are much more inclined to be taking care of an infant. But serving your child, serving your baby in that way, it's a beautiful bonding moment. And I love spending time with my baby. And she's 8 months old now. No, 9 months old. And it's also a way to serve my wife, right? Where I'm easing her burdens because you know what? I don't want her to be stressed out because she's literally taking care of our daughter from the time she wakes up to the time that she goes to bed. So I work at my job. It's a lot of work. It's stressful. And I will ease some of her burden, probably take care of our daughter an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours a day in little bits that I can handle, and makes her life way easier. I feel good about it because I'm serving her and I'm spending time with my daughter. I really recommend that men do that. I couldn't imagine being a man that believes that should all be a woman. I also cannot understand a man who does that 50-50 because men are just not designed to do that 50-50. There's a reason that women are the ones that feed the baby and give birth to the baby. They're more physiologically and emotionally adaptive to being able to take care of a child. But it's a beautiful thing for a man to get involved in some way and make his woman's life easier. But you can still use the masculine and feminine communication, right? So my wife would just ask permission for help if she needed something instead of saying, "Hey, go change his diaper," right? So it can now be an act of service. Or the other thing a man can do, and I try to do this as much as possible, is anticipate his woman's needs so that she doesn't even have to ask. Because I'm thinking, okay, she's been dealing with her daughter for 5 hours straight, and she's probably hungry and irritated. Hey, babe, go take a break, go eat some food. I'm gonna play with her daughter and give her a diaper change, right? So again, that's leadership.
Right on, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Zach, we're gonna hop off soon because it's been a few hours now. So good job. It's been a couple hours.
Yeah, it's not
if
bad.
if people are like, you know what, I'm actually kind of digging this. I want to get it. I want to try and see if this works for me. How do they get to you again? Can you go ahead and you put a lot of work into these things? Can you go ahead and show everybody? Here's
Yeah,
how
I'm gonna keep
you
them.
get. Here's how you get in touch with me.
All right. So first one, make sure I got this. Is that right? I think that's right. Huh? So
Yep.
polaritymasterclass.com. You
Mm-hmm.
go there. We got 2 master classes this month on the 10th in a few days and on the 29th. So what we'll be doing in that masterclass for 2 hours is I'll be teaching you all about masculine and feminine communication. We kind of touched and dabbled in it. We'll go much deeper into it, give you the full structure of it. And then we're actually going to do role plays with you to show you what this looks like in action. Okay, so you're going to get a much bigger picture, get an understanding of the energy, the dynamic. It's going to be really, really helpful. So this is going to be useful for people who are like, oh, this is awesome, I really want more, or people who are like, oh, this is kind of interesting and pretty triggering at the same time, and I'm kind of pissed off, but I'm also intrigued. It's $47. Just sign up for it and it will change your life. You don't have to take everything. You don't have to be as black and white as what I teach, but it'll still be really helpful to understand some of this dynamic. And then I got this one here, relationshipofyourdreams.com. So that is my main website. On there, I got my main offers where you can work with me. I got group work where you got hundreds of men and women doing this together, practicing masculine and feminine communication all the time to really learn to integrate, make these shifts. We've transformed so many relationships. We've gotten so many men and women into relationships, finding their dream partner, healing marriages, transforming relationships with your children as well, because this polarized communication works with your children just as effectively as with a partner. So you can find that there. You can also find where the master class is on there. You can find all my other links to Facebook and not TikTok anymore because I got banned there again. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all on there as well. If you want to ask me questions about any of my offers, find me on Facebook from my website and just shoot me up in Messenger.
Well
Awesome.
done. Awesome, man.
Yeah, it's been great
That's
chatting
it.
with you.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. We appreciate you being on with us, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. This was a lot of fun. This was definitely like the one of the fastest 2 hours and 10 minutes I've ever experienced. So it was great. It was great talking to you about
Same
it.
here.
It goes by all the time. We do it for 2 hours. She'll sometimes want to just keep going. I'm like, babe, I'll smoke. We got to get some sleep. But like, it goes by fast. For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome job. Well, good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Time
Warriors,
flies when you're having fun.
That's right. That's right.
It was pretty fun. I got 3 pages, 4 pages of notes here just going through. So like we're working through it. I'm like, all right, we got a lot going on it. So in any case, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you, Warriors, for being on with us. And same thing happens. If you guys want to reach out to us, links in the bio. We also have our Instagram in there now, so you can just DM us directly. Or also check out Zach's stuff at relationshipofyourdreams.com. And you can check out Zach's stuff also. So very, very cool. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
And thank you, Zach.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All
Have a
right.
good night, guys.